Alex Radical from Board Game Co. and today I'm reviewing Thieves Market from Pickpocket Games. Thieves Market is a game for 3 to 5 players in which players are trying to desperately share the loot while trying not to appear too greedy because it will not work for them. Before we dive into the game, this channel is currently sponsored by Allplay. Check out more about them at the end of the video. But with that, in Thieves Market, what you're basically trying to do is split the loot. You're going to roll the dice over here. You're going to take this first player marker, put it down the center. You're going to roll the dice, and then you're going to try to divide the loot as evenly as possible. And the way you do that is whoever the current first player is, they pick and choose what they want to take from here, basically trying to create a grouping. So for example, let's pretend right now we're playing for a full 5-player game over here. Let's pretend that, this all has to be split 5 ways. I'm looking at the various cards. I'd love to get this card early on because this is going to be a lot of flexibility to turn things into white. Maybe that'd be good. We're going to take a few white over here. Maybe we'll take a blue as well. I don't know. We'll take a blue and then we'll take a gold for next turn. That should be enough. We're going to take that and we're going to put it in front of ourselves, leaving this for everyone else. Now, the reason we do that is because the next player has an option. They can go ahead and do exactly what we did, picking any number of things to the middle, including all of it, and place it in front of themselves. That's an option. The alternative is they can go ahead and steal what's in front of me, returning 1 die of their choice or 1 item of their choice back to the middle. I only took 4 things though. If they take from me, they're only getting 3 things. Is that really worth it? Who's to say? Not right now. So they'll go ahead and they'll reach to the center. They actually want to go first because they want to go ahead and buy this card over here, but they're going to take 1 red over here. By taking the first player marker, they guarantee they have first access to go ahead and buy that red. And then they're going to take both of these gold because I'd love that. And honestly, while we're at it, why don't we take a few points too? So we're going to take this over here. That's going to be what they take, which is great. It's also a lot of things, which means when the third player takes their turn, they can go back to the middle, remembering we are trying to split all of this 5 ways, but they're actually just going to make their life a little easier. They're going to grab all of this stuff from that player and select it for themselves, returning 1 thing back to the middle. They don't care that much about that point over there. They'll return a point to the middle. Now they only have 5 things. The problem is that's still too much. So player 4 over here is going to do the exact same thing, stealing that for themselves, returning that point to the middle, and now it's a little bit less. And then the next player is going to create a grouping. Maybe they grab, let's say we need these cards over here. They'll grab these because they realize they're next in order after this person, so they're still going to get a benefit of being able to buy this before I do. So they'll take this and the 2 points, which again is great, but we're still trying to split this a few different ways. Next player will just go ahead and take what they want. They want a point, they want a red, and they realize they don't actually need a lot more, but just for the sake of whatever, they'll take this. And the next player is going to go ahead and steal this, returning 1 die to the middle, until eventually you have 5 groupings. Again, the general idea is you are either stealing from another player, returning 1 thing to the middle, or you are taking from the middle. At the end of it, at some point in the game, you're going to have players who all have things in front of them. And once that happens, your turns are over, because you only have a turn to either split or steal if you have nothing in front of you. As soon as you have something in front of you, you are skipped until someone steals from you, and then you're back to having nothing in front of you. This creates a dynamic where players are kind of incentivized to get what they want, but if you take a little bit too much, somebody else by stealing it might still get enough that it's worth taking it from you. And so greed is not punished, but it doesn't necessarily work out in your favor, whereas planning the perfect amount that what you have is good for you, but 1 less thing is not as good, that's really where the optimum strategy comes into play. Either way, once everyone has something, starting with the first player, you're going to go around taking turns buying cards. I can go ahead and spend this, putting it back in the middle over here, take this card in front of me, and now on future turns, I can turn red into white or vice versa. Gives me a lot more flexibility, which is important, because you may notice I only have a market deck out. In round 2, we're going to add the heist deck, and in round 3 and onwards, we'll have the relic deck. So I'll buy this with that. Next player can take their turn. You can be buying cards, and you have these 2 dice over here. These turn into points, which are literally points. At the end of the game, you're going to be worth points for these. And these turn into gold, which is wild, but the thing with gold is you can't spend it the turn you got it, you can spend it on future turns. You also can only have 2 gold at any given point, so you can only hold on to so much gold in the game. That's basically what you're going to do in round 1. In round 2, it's going to be the exact same thing. You'll refill empty cards, but this time around, you're going to add cards to the deck because you're going to add from the heist deck, so you're going to add a bunch of cards in it for round 2. These start giving you more ways to get points. They're a little bit more expensive, but they often are a bit more point focused and or just ability focused. For example, over here, here, I can turn in a white die to get a gold and a point. That's very helpful. These two let me swap back and forth, gold and points. Gives me a lot of flexibility. So these are slightly better cards. In round 3, you're going to add in relics, which is usually where you get the chunk of points over here. The crown jewels is fun. The treasure map is fun. Like the most cards, these two work well together. This one gives you a point for every card you have. That's a market card or a heist card. This one gives you points if you have the most cards, but it gives you points no matter what. It gives you more points if you have the most card. This gives you points if you currently have the first player market when you buy it, but they cost a lot more to get. And you're going to continue doing this until the single player has bought their third relic. Once that happens, you're going to add up the points. The game ends immediately, by the way, which means that last round actually has a lot of tension because you're really trying to think through, okay, well, depending on what I steal or take, I might not even get a turn. If the player ends the game right away, I could have this entire pile of dice in front of me. I might not get to use it. So the first player marker becomes really key on that last round of the game. But either way, once a player does buy their third relic, that triggers game end. You add up all your points and you see who won in Thieves Market, which means it's time for my review of what I like, don't like, and can see others not liking in the game. And I'll start with the basic premise of what this game does, which is the I cut you choose kind of mechanic. It's not exactly I cut you choose. Normally I cut you choose is like, oh, which pile do you want? This one's a little bit different than that. You're creating these piles based on what you want to take, but you are still trying, like the mental game of trying to make it even-ish but working in your favor, that's still very much present here, because at first it's just about trying to figure out what is a pile that is good enough that one less thing from that pile is not good enough. That's kind of the balance you're playing. But as the game evolves, you actually have even more flexibility because it starts becoming what's a pile that's good for me but not necessarily as good for you. If I could turn white dice into other dice, I might take a few more white dice, and if you steal that pile from me, you might not be able to buy the cards you want on the table. And so you can start really leaning into your build and drafting dice that are good for your build, knowing that if somebody else takes it, they actually end up with a poor hand. And so the game starts off with already trying to figure out how to manipulate this I cut you choose kind of situation, but as the game iterates through that, it really leans into it a lot more because of the nature of the tableau that you're building out. And that tableau that you're building out is a big part of the fun of the game. You are working your way towards the tableau. You have the market cards and the heist cards and the relic cards being where most of the points come in, and you do have to work your way up to there and earn those gold. You also have your player card over here, which lets you save dice in order to get a gold, so that you never really have completely dead dice because you can always turn them in for gold for next round. And the mechanic around gold is also fun because they're wild, which gives a lot of flexibility, but you can't use them this turn, which gives a lot of balance to the game. And so you're trying to juggle all of this while ultimately playing a game with the other players. I mean, I guess any game you're playing a game with the other players, but you're playing against the other players as far as trying to figure out how to draft it all, how to split everything up while working your way towards the cards you want and taking advantage of the tableau that you're building while playing the players as much as you're playing the game. As far as things I don't like in the game, I wouldn't say there's anything I particularly don't like in the game, more so what the game is and how it works. It's very much a beer and pretzels party game that's a lot of fun to go through. We'll get more into this in final thoughts, but I do think it's very much the same game every single time you play. Granted, the relic cards do give some variety to, like, the ways you're trying to, like, this is a fun one over here. You're trying to get 3 points plus 2 per gold, but you usually have 2 gold. It's kind of easy to get your hands in it. Over here, the lease cards is helpful, so you have some of these things that will change, and some of the heist cards, like one of my favorite heist cards, give you points whenever you buy cards with a certain color in the banner. I like that one because you can start getting extra points throughout the game and trying to, again, work through your tableau and the cards on the table to maximize. So the card variety is like really the only thing changing in the game. Outside of that, it's a beer and pretzels, I cut you choose. Again, it's not exactly I cut you choose, but it's that vibe. So it's very repetitive. It's very samey as far as the game goes. I like it, but it's on the lighter side and it's a little repetitive as far as what it's doing. As far as I can see, others not liking, other players' choices can drive the game. And what I mean by that is because of the nature of the fact that other people stealing the game is a big part of it, sometimes you have this balance where you're like, oh, I grabbed a bunch of dice that are very good for me, they're not so good for you, and someone else is like, but I don't want you to have them, I'm still going to steal them from you and put one back in the middle. And that back and forth can happen where at times you feel a player is acting not in their best interest, but nonetheless it can stop you from winning. So I guess whatever you want to call unintentional kingmaking, that feeling, kingmaking might be a bit strong, but I've certainly seen moves in this game that felt suboptimal, but one player still being penalized in a multiplayer game that others are being rewarded for John taking a suboptimal move that hurt you and helped everyone else at the table, but you and he hurt. So that kind of thing definitely does happen in this game. As far as final thoughts on Thieves Market, I don't have a ton of things to say. I will say I was pleasantly surprised by this game. Like, I did not expect to enjoy it as much as I did, with the caveat that my most enjoyable game was my first game. When I had that charm of like, ooh, this is very clever. Like, it felt clever. The way you have this splitting of the dice over there, it really felt like I like trying to min-max it. I enjoy trying to find the perfect number, and I really enjoy that as I build up my tableau, what I pull for me is not necessarily as good for you. I find that a very charming little puzzle. And so I enjoyed Thieves Market more than I expected to, but it is the same game every time I play it. So it's one of those games that it's great for that time you want to pull out a light beer and pretzels game, but it's not great for repeat plays. It's not the kind of game I'm going to dive into multiple times. It's kind of more... It's charming. It's good at what it does. If you want a light filler game, this definitely is good at that. I wish there was more that mixed up the experience in one way or another. Overall, I'm going to give it a 3.5 out of 5. Also, minor complaint. These tokens over here, the point tokens, they're a little too close in size, even though there's a number printed on them. I did find that a drop confusing. Anyways, a 3.5 out of 5. As far as other game recommendations go, definitely check out Cash and Guns if you want a completely chaotic way to split the loot and see who survives. And also, Good Critters had a fun little arc of loot splitting and all of that, I believe from Arcane Wonders, if I'm not mistaken. And then lastly, I mentioned Allplay is a channel sponsor. You can go to allplay.com and check out a variety of things that they do, but if you're looking for a game from Allplay, Soda Jerk kind of gave me the same vibes. It's a very different game. It's designed by Chris Yee, put out by Allplay, small box game, but it's a very different game as far as how it's working, but that sort of sense of we're all in this together, just in the way that we either elevate how things score or tank the entire economy. It's a very different game, but for whatever reason, it gave me similar vibes to playing through Thieves Market. In any case, and until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you found this review helpful, and as always, I hope you have a good one.